Përshëndetje, e kemi nderin të kemi musafir zotrin William Walker, ish ambasadorin Amerikan, që është një vizit shumë të shkurt në Kosovë për vjetorin e masakrës në Raqaq. Mr. William, it's actually a pleasure and honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have the information that you've been in Raqaq today. So what would you tell us from the last visit you had and today? How was it?
A little different. A little different. It was snowing as it always is. It was cold as it always is. But there were an awful lot of people there. Mostly people from the village and from Shtimle and from the surrounding area. What was a little different this year was that almost the entire government was there, central government. President Thaci, Prime Minister Ramush, everyone. And I made a point of saying I'm glad to see the national government is now observing the Raqaq Memorial Service. In the past, it's been mostly Shtimle, the mayor of the municipality, plus the people of Raqaq. But now it's a sort of a national memorial service.
Perfect. You know, like after a month, Kosovo is going to celebrate its 10th anniversary of independence. So how did you see, and how do you see Kosovo for the past years?
Now we're into a difficult zone of answers. I'm disappointed, to put it mildly. You know, there's been many changes, many positive changes. This hotel is one of them. There's a lot of things that are different, new highways, new buildings, things like that. I'm afraid I thought there was going to be more progress than there has been. You know, some people say it takes time to build a new nation. But I was here 10 years ago on the day of independence, and I saw the people celebrating in the streets here in Peja, in Prizren. That enthusiasm has gone away. An awful lot of people are not doing well. I think Kosovo is facing a brain drain. An awful lot of young people who get a good education are leaving because they can't find a job. Things like that. So obviously there's positive things, but I think if you ask me in general, I would say for several years I think Kosovo has been not moving in the right direction or as fast as they should be.
Or as we expected.
Or as you expected, which is even more important.
Exactly. We have two main issues nowadays been discussed in the government. The special court and the demarcation with the Montenegro. What would you like to say about it?
On the second one, on the demarcation with Montenegro, I can't claim to have a well-informed opinion. I live in Washington. I get telephone calls. I know, you know, I read a Illyria, which is an English language newspaper there. You know, what I understand is that it's not really a big issue for Montenegro. They're being fairly flexible, but it has become tied up in politics. It's become tied up in the international community's dealings with Kosovo, and I'm not sure who is right. Okay?
All right.
On the special court, that's a little different. When I first heard about the special court some time ago, I was definitely in opposition. I felt strongly that, yes, there had been a war here, and I'm sure there were bad things that happened during that war, and I certainly felt that if people were guilty of war crimes or things like that, justice should be served. But when I was here, And during the war, when I was in Macedonia watching Kosovo during the NATO campaign, the human rights violations committed, the war crimes committed, were mostly committed by Serb security forces. Bračak, for instance, there were commanders, there were their commanders, and no one has ever asked for a special court for those crimes.
Exactly.
I didn't, okay, that was when the idea was first brought forward. The court was established. I'm told they've spent a lot of money investigating, putting it together, and now they want to proceed with indictments. And now my opinion is, once you establish a court like that, it's a mistake to try and interfere with its process. So I hear, the government has put forward the proposition that maybe they should take another look at the courts. They've got to be careful, because people are going to think that means there are guilty people who are trying to avoid prosecution. I still feel very strongly that, Serb war crimes, of which there were many, 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 in which there were many, many, many officers of the Serb forces who were involved, and why isn't there a special court for them? If you do it for one side, the other side's deserves the same. That's my comment on the court.
That was actually my question. You just gave me the answer about. I was going to ask you, do you see it as a fair thing, like establishing a court or a special court to judge the Albanians, when we know that the occupiers were Serbians?
Yeah, and whatever war crimes, if they took place that were caused by Albanian UÇK types or whatever, they were very small in number compared to the massive. We investigated, my mission investigated human rights abuses during the Exodus, the genocide.
Exactly.
Women being raped and villages being burned, and they were being done by military officers commanding their troops burn that village, or it would be very easy to find out who commanded the troops at Bračak.
Exactly.
But nothing is being done there. So, yes, I think it's unfair.
Very good. Going to another question I would like to ask you. Today we have seen a gesture been done by you, giving a flower to the president. What did you mean by that? Is there any meaning behind it?
I hope so. I hope so. I don't pass out flowers very often. I was at the cemetery in Bračak, and as usual, the families of the fallen mostly stand behind the victim's grave, and I always stop and read the inscription. One man, two men are 99 years of age, some young boys, two women, and I usually salute the families, because they are the ones that have paid the price for the independence of this country. A lot of flowers, all over the place, but a little girl from one of the families, her mother pushed her forward, maybe she was 5 years old, 6, and she gave me the flower. And I thought that was very, very touching. So when I went to give a few words at the meeting, the more formal ceremony where the president was there and prime minister and other ministers, I thought I want to congratulate the central government for finally remembering Bračak and what it means to this country. And this little girl gave me a flower, and I'm going to give it to you, Mr. President, And I hope you will, every time you look at it and you keep it, you will remember what happened in Rachak and what it meant for this country becoming independent. So please take the flower. And he took it, obviously. That was what I meant by it.
Perfect. It seems like it was to remind the politicians that Rachak is not a place to be left alone.
Exact. Good. You captured it. You got it. You got it.
Maybe I will go to the last question.
Sure.
Which is, how do you see the progress of the politicians? Specifically, I will mention the two major politicians that we have in the country, the president and the prime minister. How do you see their rule in their position for Kosovo?
First is a general impression, a general feeling I have, which is they were both heroes of the war. That's now 18, 19 years behind us. They have given their service to the country. Whether you criticize it or applaud it, it's still service. My basic feeling is that Kosovo needs some new political leadership. Young people, people who have new ideas, people who have had outside training, have been overseas, know what the world is like. That takes a slow time. That doesn't happen quickly. Specifically, those two men, I've known them both for 18 years, 17 years. They both had important roles to play. From what I understand, they are both maybe tangled up in this special court process, which is not a good thing for Kosovo. There are a lot of very, very good, smart, patriotic people in Kosovo. And the more we can bring them into the process, the better. I mean, you know, we're sitting in a hotel with where the foreign minister, I believe, is in the dining room right now. You know, he brings outside experience. He knows the world. I just think it's time for us to sort of move into a new direction and maybe start some new ideas. I thought at the last election we were going to get more change. But then at the end, another coalition of the same 2, 3, 4 parties, whatever it is. I think Kosovo really needs all its political leaders for one election to stand together and say, we're going to run the country for a few years as a coordinated coalition of all the parties. You know, bring in Vetin Dosi, bring in and do something for the people of Kosovo, not for their parties.
So it's like time for some new, young generation
to start
to run the country.
Well, now let's get them trained first, but then, you know, I think it is. It's time for change to a new generation.
Perfect. Mr. William Walker, thank you very much for
My
being
pleasure.
here with us.
My pleasure.
We have a very small symbolic present and a gift to you.
Is there a flower in it?
No, we just have a calendar with a book.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe you can remember us as arbresh.info.
Okay.
Follow up the news.
Okay.
I'm sure like the video will be on the website today.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you
very
very
much. My pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
This is for you.
Thank you. Arbresh.info. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.